Welcome back to CJAD. Yoshua Bengio, the founder and scientific director of MILA, the Quebec Institute of Artificial Intelligence, has a warning for all of us. AI will be as smart as humans within the next 20 years. And speaking before the U.S. Senate on Tuesday, he had warnings about fraudulent elections, bank fraud, and biological weapon attacks if regulation is not brought in immediately. Yoshua Bengio joins us on the line. Welcome to the program, Mr. Bengio. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So the warning right now, why is this moment in time the right time to talk about the future of AI and the warnings for all of us?
Because there's been progress this year. If you've experienced ChatGPT, for example, that has surprised many scientists, including myself, and even the people who built these in companies like OpenAI. And that has really shifted the horizon for when we could get human level AI. It could be, as you said, maybe 20 years. It could also be just a few years. It's hard to predict those things, but society needs to be prepared. We need to have regulation to minimize the risks that malicious use happens with these very powerful systems.
So what happens when artificial intelligence becomes as smart as a human or smarter? What happens then?
Well, we have to be really careful. So the first thing that happens is in the wrong hands. This can be used in a way as a weapon, for example, to design cyber attacks, to design bioweapons, to have an influence on elections, to even directly influence key people. Right now, we have systems that understand language and can have a dialogue, and it's difficult for a normal person to know whether they're talking to a human or a machine. And even for an expert, it takes a lot of time to kind of find the evidence that this isn't a human.
Can you explain? Because obviously, we have all these examples from pop culture, and movies about artificial intelligence that becomes too intelligent and tries to kill humans, right? But in the real world scenario, what would actually happen? You mentioned there could be a malicious actor that's programming this stuff, but
yes.
in my mind, let's say the AI becomes too smart, can't we just literally pull the plug? Can't we just take the power cord and unplug the machine if it starts to do malicious things?
Yeah, we should definitely try, but think about it. If it's smarter than us, it will understand that we want to pull the plug. This is exactly what happened in the scenario of Space Odyssey 2000 with HAL 9000. Uh-huh. The humans were starting to be concerned that the machine wasn't behaving properly, and they discussed between themselves that they should pull the plug. And then the machine didn't want that because it had a mission to accomplish, and it killed one of the two astronauts.
Now, there are those that say that the people calling for regulation right now are simply the people in artificial intelligence that are behind the leaders and the leaders in the field right now. And the reason they want regulation is to slow the companies and groups that are doing a better job at AI. What do you say to those people?
Well, that we should consider the risks, and the risks involve really potential catastrophic outcomes for the public, for humanity. I think that we have to do it also not just in each country, but internationally. We need to make sure that all the countries follow some safety guidelines, similarly to what we did after the Second World War with nuclear power and weapons. Even though the USSR and the US were in a Cold War situation, they sat down around the table because nobody wanted a nuclear Armageddon.
And I'm so happy you've brought up nuclear weapons here. I, like a lot of people, watched Oppenheimer this week in the theaters, and I was making those same parallels in my mind. So what happened at the end of the Second World War with nuclear weapons, I think there are parallels with artificial intelligence today. But does that not make the case that smarter minds will prevail, that they will see that, nobody wins. If artificial intelligence can create a biological weapon, nobody wins. So don't you think that countries will get a hold of their senses and not create something too dangerous?
Yes, I believe that governments, for the most part, will do the right thing, but there will be exceptions. So think about some crazy governments like North Korea, or even organizations that are not governmental, terrorists, or organizations that want to have more political power and want to use these tools to sway elections. So there will be people who don't, follow the right guardrails, which we don't even know clearly how to set up yet. And that's something we need to be wary about and try to minimize those risks. And there are things that can be done. So I had a long list of proposals for the Senate, and I think we need to move in similar directions here in Canada. We have a law that's being tabled. We need maybe to improve it a bit, and we need to quickly make it to use.
We're with Yoshua Bengio, the founder and scientific director of MILA, that's Quebec's Institute of Artificial Intelligence. Tell me about Tuesday in front of the U.S. Senate. How do you think your proposals were received?
Well, much better than I thought. The leading Republican and Democrat senators who were organizing this committee had read my proposal, which I gave only 24 hours before, and the other two. And they understood the danger, and they were very concerned, and had a strong motivation to come up with legislative action. So I'm very encouraged by that.
For artificial intelligence to work, you need hardware, right? And
That's right.
Please correct me if I'm wrong. It seems like it's these GPUs that everyone is buying around the world to develop artificial intelligence. So if you want to restrict or if you want to regulate the development of AI, isn't that where you need to start? The actual hardware, much like we limit how weapons can be bought and sold around the world.
Exactly. It's like nuclear material in a sense. Like that, you have some restrictions of who can buy it and what you can do with it. So it's similar, and hardware is interesting because there are just a few companies in the world building the right chips that are needed, and they have to be in huge quantities to be able to train these big systems. So indeed, that's one of the recommendations that I put to the Senate. We need to register and sort of this bottleneck of the chain to build very dangerous AI system, to have companies declare what they want to do with it, and then to be licensed to do the things with the right guardrails.
And does that make you a little bit more hopeful? Like, because you mentioned a rogue state, something like North Korea, the fact that they need to procure these GPUs, doesn't it make it less likely that a rogue state could do something malicious?
Well, if the governments do the right thing, and especially the U.S. government, in order to make sure it gets harder to get access to both the hardware and the software that's needed to build these dangerous systems.
We're going to have to leave it there, Mr. Bengio. I want to thank you so much for your time this morning. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
That's Yoshua Bengio. He's founder and scientific director of MILA, that's Quebec's Institute of Artificial Intelligence.